to introduce myself. I'm Sorka Finucane, and we're here with the free live webinar series for TrainedIn, and we're running these in conjunction with Taste of Success, where SkillNet, where we are basically showcasing our registered providers and the services that they offer, and trying to help them get their voice and reach out to the large community and showcase your services, and so people can kind of get to know them a little bit. TrainedIn is a global platform that's dedicated to training and consultancy providers as a marketplace to buy and sell services. We're launching next week, so anybody can register now, and we are, because of the times we're in, giving away 2 months free commission, and it's free to sign up to TrainedIn as well. Just a couple of bits on some webinar housekeeping. We can't see you and we can't hear you, but we will communicate with you all via chat. So please feel free to engage during the session and ask as many questions that you have of Seamus, and really make use of this time, because we want to hear you. This is here for you, to support you. We'll be running some polls during the webinar as well, just to get a gauge on where people are and what you're thinking, and we have a couple of offers and whatnot. So we're going to just introduce Seamus. So we've got Seamus here from Powering Health, and Seamus, tell us all about you and Powering Health and how we've come about.
Yeah, first of all, I suppose thanks, Sorka, for the opportunity to participate in the session today. And at the time, it couldn't be better, I think, for many, many reasons, with all the changes that you kind of referred to going on with, the issues we're all facing now around the new world of stress around coronavirus, Covid-19. And my journey began a long way from here, way back in the late 80s, early 90s. You want to go back that far? I started my career not really knowing what I wanted to do in my life, honestly. I was a techie, I did field support, and worked for a company called Honeywell Bull right back then. And then the whole world changed very, very rapidly at that time as well. The whole IT world changed, and very much facilitated by the internet, World Wide Web, and the whole pace of change that drove really from that time. And that came with a whole set of opportunities, but a whole set of stressors as well. So ultimately, that's where my journey was really around, on the one side, gaining a lot through opportunities around the internet and what it enabled us to do: email, web, or the internet, email, Wi-Fi, WhatsApp, all the rest of it, basically, ultimately, all these technologies. But the dark underbelly of that really was the levels of stress and the rate of change. And it's really like almost a compression of pressure in our heads. So as this rate of change and all these new technologies became available, the really dark underbelly of that was around the stressors and the impact it was having on people's performance, but also on their lifestyles, like the diet,
and it
the
really
exercise, the stress.
Because you're never really switched off, and you're always connected, and you're always on the grid. And I suppose sometimes people have an expectation of themselves, or employers might have an expectation that because you're always connected, you're always available, and it's not really the case, or it shouldn't be the case.
Yeah, I mean, that's the trap I guess we all fall into, is as the whole workplace life blend happened through the IT and the IT facilities, the ability, like the World Web, email, whatever you mentioned, the whole Wi-Fi stuff, the whole connectedness of everything. We had a great connectedness, but we're very much less connected to ourselves and other people, even though we had all these technologies. And that's the irony of the whole thing, I think, is that we're less connected, but less personally engaged, maybe with ourselves, but also with others as well. So, and that really brought me on the journey around to make some small changes myself, which began with reading a couple of books, like many good pivots and stories change do. So I read some psychology books by a guy called, one by Professor Ian Robertson. He's a Trinity professor, and that kind of gave me the spark to kind of really investigate the workings of the brain and psychology, and how many, many people are falling into this trap, and understand how we can actually maybe extract ourselves from it a little bit. And there was a second book I read by a guy called Bruce Lipton around the biology of belief. And these were the stimuli for me to kind of change and get an academic grounding away as a mechanism to help me rebalance. So I did a part-time psychology degree, and ended up doing a master's in health psychology, which is really the stimulus for helping me to get where I am today with Powering Health. So all my work experience with the academic behavior change theories as I learned through the master's has really been the whole foundation of what I'm doing now with Powering Health, I guess, and really lifestyle behavior change and so on.
Yeah. And how do you feel that the whole COVID-19 element has factored on people's stress levels and, I suppose, workplaces and communication?
You mean to say, when I began Powering Health over 2 years ago, it really was around the lifestyle. So it was the diet, the exercise, the stress levels, and sleep. They were the 4 pillars of really where I was targeting and helping people to realize and just to kind of wake up to the fact you need to heed your warning signs. So when you feel this sense of overwhelm or feel where you're not really firing on all cylinders, notice that, learn to notice it and not just ignore it and take action. So that's really where the whole starting of Powering Health came from. And work-related stress became a primary focus for me through some data that became available through the European Working Conditions Survey, which has been running for many years, around the impact of personal performance of when we become overwhelmed and not being able to actually cope and deal with stress, the impact that had on the person, the impact it had on their ability to perform, but also the business impact it had on business and bottom line performance. And that's really what I had been focusing on with Powering Health pre COVID-19. And then the COVID-19 thing comes along and it ran no more than when I was back in the 1980s. The mat had been pulled underneath from so many of us. And then what were really superficial type of stressors maybe beforehand, now we're dealing with a whole different set of maybe more fundamental stressors around, our health, our performance, the worry and stress that goes with our elderly parents, our elderly siblings, with our kids. So the whole everything really has changed in the world as regards the stressors that we had before versus the new set of stressors that now we're currently dealing with. And that's hopefully something we can begin to, I suppose, address today. And the very reason, I suppose, for the prep today's conversation and, the timing, for example, like platforms like webinar, or like TrainedIn, are very much perfect to facilitate the type of services I guess I want to offer going forward, is to help people realize you have a lot of control, you can take control, and there is techniques and mechanisms you can use to help yourselves to care for yourself and to care for others. But really the first thing is to help you heed your warning signs, become self-aware, and hopefully that's something we can dip into today as a mechanism to workshops I'm delivering afterwards, where we can get into that in more detail, I guess.
Yeah, and the workshops are a fantastic idea, and we'll talk about more of them later. And I know we have an offer going on them. And I'm just looking at the poll there, Seamus. The question was, have your stress levels increased as a result of COVID-19? So we've got 100% yes on that.
Okay, that's pretty clear.
So I think that's understandable. And well, sorry, we have a little bit of an 80-20% there. No, look, it's good as well. Some people manage stress differently. Some people, I suppose, COVID-19 is not having a direct impact on absolutely everybody either. So there's different ways and means of managing and coping.
And stress is such as you mentioned that, like, it just reminds me, stress is such an individual thing. So what stresses one person won't stress another, and stress changes in your circumstances over life. So if you are in a stressful situation at one stage in your life, and you come to manage and deal with that stress and become more familiar with the particular situation, it's no longer becomes a stressor, but you might have a new stressor that comes along. So it's always be good to be able to, in a position to develop a mechanism to help you manage those new stressors that come along. And so that's part of, what we hopefully will discuss, and through the techniques we'll talk about later as well.
Yeah. And Donal has just made the point there is that he had voted yes to the poll, but it's only having a slight impact on his stress. So it's not a direct stressor, Donal, but it's had a slight impact, which I suppose a lot of people would find that as well. So look, Seamus, will we kick on into your presentation? Sorry, Helen has just popped in a chat there. Self-awareness is key to change and important to help us understand the emotions that are causing us stress. Very true. Very true.
Self-awareness. I mean, our emotions are, and again, we'll talk about this, but briefly before we go in, our emotions are really are food for us. Our emotions are really positive. They're our body telling us what we actually should heed and listen to and not ignore. So I think a
Yeah.
lot of the times, we get these emotions, we feel overwhelmed, and we kind of say, it'll be okay. But the whole really technique of what I really wanted to reinforce and talk about today was that, positive, negative, frustration, anger, fear, they're all there for a purpose, all there for a reason. They're natural processes, and we can
Yeah.
harness those for our benefit, I guess, really,
Yeah.
as well. So that's really what I really wanted to talk about. And the beginning point of that is clarity and coherence, which comes through slowing down. So the first thing I really wanted to do today was to go into a meditation exercise and an extract of what we do. We add heart sessions, which I'll be running in collaboration with HeartMath, and hopefully that will get us grounded and get us into a coherent place where we have clarity and improved creativity when we actually begin to think about what are the stressors and be able to identify and go through the steps then that we'll talk about afterwards through the session.
Yeah, and Michael has just made the point there that it needs to be blended with self-compassion, which I think is
Absolutely.
also
Critical.
100% true. So look,
Absolutely.
Seamus, we'll start the presentation. I know we have the slides up there, guys, but you can still see us in the little boxes down on the right-hand corner. So Seamus, I will pass it over the controls to you,
Okay.
and I'll keep an eye on the chat for you and pop in any questions if anyone comes up. So over to you.
Okay, perfect. So I think maybe pop the first question poll up. Give me an idea as well, Sorka, before we begin, of who has actually tried meditation and used meditation practices before, and who hasn't. And then I'll get get everything ready here. So that's really what I'm going to begin with. About 3 or 4 minutes of meditation to get us all grounded, get us all set up. And then I'll talk a little bit more around the model, around how we can actually begin to actually address some of the techniques around managing our stress better. So I'm not sure, does people have a chance to respond to the poll yet?
They're popping in answers there now as we speak. So 87% of people at the moment using mindfulness.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it seems to most people then have experience and done some level of meditation or mindfulness.
And I
Okay, so
wonder
good.
the no's there, and we've more no's coming in. If you could just pop into the chat, is the reason that you don't use mindfulness because it's not something that fits your personality, or is it because you've just never used it before? Because there could be different reasons, or they've never heard of it. So yeah, that'd be interesting, I suppose.
Okay, great, perfect. So let's begin. So before we begin the session, and this is an extract from the We Are Heart sessions, which I'll be running afterwards as well, which you can find more details on, and we'll share that through the offer that we'll share in a couple of seconds. But before we begin the session, I'd like to give you some practical information. So it's important that you feel comfortable during the session. So if you're new to online group experiences, then please don't feel any awkwardness. Just do your best to relax and enjoy the experience. So part of our practice is about trying to feel pleasant, positive, heartfelt emotions. Don't worry if you find it difficult to connect or to sustain the feelings of care, appreciation, gratitude, or compassion. The primary goal at this stage is that you have the intention and desire to connect with your heart and to feel the feelings, whether they come or not, especially given the short duration of today's practice session. And again, the sessions I will do afterwards are 30 minutes of this kind of heart-focused breathing practice. So again, this is only a very small extract or sample of the type of work we would be doing in those workshops. So what we will be practicing creates a state called coherence. Coherence is an optimal state of balance in your mind and body. It's very good for us, and it helps our minds and bodies to repair and revitalize. We'll now begin, and we'll engage in heart-focused breathing for the next 3 minutes or so. So sit nice and comfortably, feet planted on the ground, sitting on a chair with the back, if possible, but straight up and as comfortable as you possibly can be. You may close your eyes or keep them open, whatever you prefer. Shift your attention to your heart and chest area. You may find that putting your hand on your heart is helpful. Take a few deep, calm, and comfortable breaths. So it's like a couple of deep breaths in. So and just get into a rhythm of a breath like that when we begin. So we're just going to begin in a couple of seconds. So now imagine that your breath is flowing into and out of your heart or chest area. So breathe deeply but comfortably and try to make the breath nice and balanced. That is the same length of time for the breath in as the breath out. Perhaps start with a pace of around 5 seconds or so, and then use and find out what's really comfortable for yourselves. It might be a little bit more or a little bit less, but just find a pace that is comfortable for you. So deeper than normal breaths at a pace that's balanced in and out. Keep your focus in your heart and imagine the breath flowing in and out of the chest, heart or chest area. Let your belly expand and contract with each breath. Try to get your breath as smooth and sustained as possible. Don't hold it at the end or the inhale or at the end of the inhale or the exhale. Allow your breath to flow in and out in a smooth, sustained way. Okay, so if you're feeling good, let's begin. So enjoy a few moments of heart-focused breathing. We'll do this for about 3 minutes or so, and then I'll let you know when we're ready to move on. Is that good with everyone? Are we all set?
I think so, Seamus, yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm going to start about a 3-minute counter now. So enjoy, guys, and I'll be back to you when we're ready to carry on. Okay, everyone. How was that?
That was great, Seamus.
Yeah, so 3 minutes seems like a long time, like when
Mm,
it's in complete silence. But yeah, from the sessions I've done in a room face to face, this is one of the things over a 90-minute session that most people, or a lot of people, have reported they found the most engaging, I guess, or the most benefit to people, because they found just that silence.
yeah. There's one thing that you said that helped me that I never actually did before, and where you said, "Don't hold your breath and
Hmm.
just let it flow." I always, anytime I ever did mindfulness, I felt that people were saying, "Hold, let your breathe out for 5 seconds or 10 seconds or in," and I always
Hmm.
felt holding your breath, waiting to get to the end of the time instead of keeping the flow, which was really good. Just some comments that came in there while before we started. Bridie was saying that I think we don't perhaps understand the techniques or how easy that it is to the right word. Um, and then Jerry said he tried it, but not consistently.
Hmm.
Michael, just to share his first experience, he participated in an 8-week program. James said he has an interest, but never actioned it. Think it might be a personality thing, and this should be very interesting.
Yeah,
I same actually before I tried mindfulness for the first time. I was like, that's not for me.
yeah.
Um,
And I was the very same, honestly. I had the
yeah,
same experience myself. But this mechanism, the heart math, is so simple, and you can do this anywhere. You don't need, and there's actually technology to go with this as well. I haven't even mentioned that.
mm,
But this is so simple and straightforward, and it's just intuitive. And
yeah,
for me, it really works so well versus
yeah.
other things I might have tried before.
Yeah, and Michael also said that it took him on his 8-week session. It took him 4 weeks to connect the feelings and the benefits.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
he did it for 2 by 5 minutes every day, longer becoming when he's overwhelmed.
yeah.
Siobhan found it hard to concentrate. Bridie
Okay, that's
restful,
normal.
Jamie calming down, James very restful.
Yeah.
Bridie, yes, letting the breath flow was better. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it just takes
um,
practice as well. I mean, this is only 3 minutes, and I do this
yeah.
20 minutes myself every day. And it's
Wow.
amazing, with practice over time. And I've been doing this for over a year and a half at this stage with this particular method. And I just said, I've never looked back. And you can actually use it as a kind of game. As I said, there's technology, and you can measure your
Yeah,
coherence levels with the
yeah.
heart math approach as well. I haven't even gone into that, but that's something if people are interested in, I can share an awful lot more. But this is only 3 minutes slot of 20 minutes that I do every day, or for longer 35-minute sessions that the We at Heart guys are doing as well in groups globally. So
Yeah,
it's really, really a great way of connecting yourself, but to
mm,
others then as well, I guess.
great.
Okay, so that's the starting point. What I wanted to touch on now really was, what is the mechanism now that you're in this state of coherence or clarity and improved creativity associated with just slowing everything down physiologically with your mind, your brain. Everything now is in a place where it's beginning to slow down. So now what do you do at this point where you've got to this place of calm and clarity? What is it that you can now, how you can convert your emotions into positivity or positive actions? So if you're feeling overwhelmed, go through a process of like we've just described, and then you can get into what I call a place where you can get into. I'm trying to find the actual slides to move to the next. Can you move forward, Sorka,
You
for me,
can,
please,
yeah, sure, no bother.
to the next slide, because this is where that feeling overwhelmed with the clarity that we've got, we shift in then to a, almost a formulaic approach driven through an emotional agility model that's really been driven very much and designed by Susan David. And she's a great lady, a Harvard professor of psychology as well, who's been a big
Mm,
influence on me. And it's really around then, as people have mentioned already, the self-awareness. So with this calm, with the emotions that you're feeling, just becoming aware of those emotions in the first place. So whether it's anger, frustration, fear, whatever it may be, each of us is going to have a different emotion depending on our own
mm,
circumstance. Just becoming aware of that is the first starting point of the clarity. So taking the clarity, the awareness, and then actually beginning to actually just process that and not pushing it or not resisting, just being with it, living with it, and accepting the emotions for what they are, which is nourishment for us. and they're not a negative thing. So anger, frustration, fear, is our body telling us that these are things that are naturally occurring because of something we've experienced. So just becoming aware of that, putting a label on that, and accepting
Mm,
that is a great starting point for helping us to actually begin to get to a point of displacement. And again, I could spend an hour on this slide here going to those phases, but in very, very simple terms, that's really what the workshops I will be working on afterwards. And the whole emotional agility model is going from the clarity, the coherence, into the self-awareness, the self-regulation, and it goes back to what Viktor Frankl mentioned. It's a well-known quote. Many people will be aware of it, I'm sure, on the call here,
mm,
around between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space is our power to choose our response. And that's really what this diagram here is about. It's about becoming aware, understanding and using our emotions as fuel for us, and accepting them, and using that to actually manage our responses. And it just takes practice, and it takes discipline, and it's like driving a car for the first time. You've got to remember to take your foot off the accelerator,
yeah, yeah.
push the clutch, change the gear, and do that again when you're going from first to second to third to
Mm,
fourth. It feels very awkward initially, but the whole formulaic approach that I'm sharing here becomes an automatic response. So after a year of driving, like the breathing, like going through awareness, labeling, acceptance, and coming up with action plans, this becomes an almost automatic response to us when we experience fear, stress of any type, emotions, fear, anger, whatever. We now have a mechanism where we use the awareness, the labeling, the acceptance, and coming up with action plans to actually harness that energy, whether it's any of these emotions, and
mm,
using that as a positive thing and not necessarily a negative thing that we can actually use to respond in an appropriate way and in an effective way going forward. So again, if you go on to the last slide, then Sorka,
mhm.
I think that's really what it's all about. It's around practice, 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 and
Yeah.
then improved coping through that formulaic approach. And then I tend to call this a C salad approach. So it's like the coherence and the clarity that come with the breathing. And then
Mm,
you're looking at the salad, which is the self-awareness, the labeling, acceptance, and displacement. So it's just a handy way of bringing it all together. And then, with practice, it becomes successful emotional response over time. And
yeah.
again, some people, like you mentioned on the call here earlier, will get it very, very quickly, maybe 2 or 3 sessions of, using your experience. The next time you feel overwhelmed, just slowing down, taking 2 or 3 minutes to breathe, and then forcing yourself almost to think and become aware, well, of the emotion. What is the emotion I'm feeling? Why am I feeling that way? Is it because the kids are screaming? Is it because my boss isn't, not giving me credit for whatever, great work I've done? Whatever it may be, put a label on that, accept it, use it as nourishment, and then use that as a mechanism in your coherent state to begin to come up with action plans around displacement. So, for example, that could be talking to someone, it could be going for some exercise, it could be going to the gym, doing some yoga, whatever it is that has an interest for you, that it works for you. And this comes back to stress being a very much individual thing, that
Mm,
what works for one person won't work for another. So it's
mm,
really an exploration cycle, really, of what works for you, what you find relieves the stress, and what helps you manage better to
yeah.
get that successful emotional response
And
going
that's what
forward.
Mary Ann just said there. She said she's been doing her mindfulness when she's doing her walking within the 2 kilometer distance, noticing
Hmm.
the neighborhood that she never saw before. On
Exactly.
and there's been a lot of people just commenting about that 3 minutes. Dawn was like, it's only when you realize what a difference it can make in your day just to take that 3 minutes out. And
Yeah.
Donna said, great to hear the silence and let
Yeah.
sounds be. Um, Jerry said it was very grounding and calming. No problem with smooth exhale, but breath like trying, but in the breath was like trying to open a jammed door. I get
Okay.
smooth. I feel that sometimes as well. I have to say,
Yeah.
Jerry. Yeah.
And
Um.
again, I found that myself as well, and that comes with practice and finding a pace that's comfortable for you. So that's why everyone is different. So when you
Yeah.
start with a pace, you tweak and tune that, and you find what is the comfortable pace for you over time. So that could take a couple of weeks, it could take a couple of months.
Yeah.
You find that pace, and I know we're up against the clock here as well. So,
Yeah.
so again, but that's it. That's a sample really of, I suppose, helping people benefit here in the call today, but a
Yeah,
sample of the workshops that I'm delivering afterwards as well.
perfect. Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask Seamus? Because he's here now and make use of his time. I'm going to start, his offer is there, so you can book on to some of his courses that are starting next week. But look, Seamus, from my perspective, I'll keep an eye on the chat there if anything comes in. But from my perspective, I want to say thank you very much for your time. It's been fantastic to have you on and to experience 3 minutes of I suppose reset and restart, even in my day today, because it will help. It helps kind of ground you in a way, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So I want to say thank you to you. I have a chat coming in here now. One sec. Dawn, is there a specific time of day that works best for meditation?
I find first thing in the morning it works for me, but there's no specific time. And the heart method basically talks about when you feel the stress or the pressure, that's the time in the moment to take 2 or 3 minutes. So you might want to take 20 minutes first thing in the morning, but there's nothing stopping you taking 2 or 3 minutes when you feel that sense of overwhelm cropping up during the day. And even that 20-minute session in the morning, for example, is setting you up better to better respond to those stressors as they occur during the day. So even doing that in the morning first thing might be a good thing to help you get to a place where you're calmer overall and set up to respond better. But when you are in the moment and you're feeling those times of stress or pressure 2 or 3 times a day, whatever it is, you can just take a short break at your desk, wherever you are, and just take 2 or 3 minutes, slow, deliberate breathing. And then, I'd say that's what I've mentioned, called out here in the call to action as well.
Yeah.
It's really around you. It's around harnessing your emotions. And you can do that at any time in that 20 minutes or, in those shorter periods right through the day as well, when you feel that sense of stress or overload coming upon you.
Yeah. They've just asked will the slides be available? I'm just after sharing some files with you there. So these are Seamus's files, the lifestyle choices that boost immunity, a Covey book, and the anxious children. So we've shared those files with you there. I have a number of chats coming in. If anybody wants to jump off, and if you need to jump off, that's no problem. I'll just go through these chats so that we make sure that we've included everybody. So lots of people saying how effective the 3 minutes was, Seamus.
Oh, wow, that's good.
Fantastic, really good. Lovely reset for the day by Marianne. I know, Michael, you've asked if the slides will be available. I'm sure Seamus can share them with you if you pop him an email. Bridie said, thanks for providing 3 minutes of relief and relaxation.
Okay, good.
Very crazy and difficult periods. You're welcome. Marianne also said she's going to be very productive now. Great stuff, Marianne. I hope I will be myself. James, again, is the best time we went through that. Sometimes the 60 seconds for transformation from one task to another is clearing the mind. And that's from Michael, and that is so true. If you could take 60 seconds to clear your mind from one task to the other. Bridie said she'll share with family and friends who she had sitting with me during this. That's great.
Yeah.
Dawn, you're very welcome. Thank you very much for attending. Siobhan, just booked a session with you, Seamus. I know that will be benefit from this hugely. Fantastic. Okay. Jerry, thank you as well. You're welcome. Marianne, can we share those further with staff at this time? Is this the handouts you're talking about, Marianne? Seamus, I'll leave that question to you.
Yeah, the handouts are there for you to take away. So the way I work traditionally has been to work with people in the room, but the real value of what I offer and what I'd love people to do is to take away what's in the room and what we do in the room out and make it real after the call as well. So that's where the real benefit and where the real benefit of working with me happens. Yeah. So the resources that we made available, I've particularly focused on I've noticed a lot of people with family and with kids at home, there might be a lot of stress going on around kids, and helping to explain the whole thing around, the new world of stressors we talked about with CV-19. So there's two of the ones in there are particularly aimed at children and helping children and explain to children that they're in a safe place and explain around the virus and so on. That's the COVID book, which I've found just on Twitter feed actually during this week, which I thought was a fantastic resource. And then there's another one there, a list of 9 things you can actually use to speak to your kids about. And again, the other one is the general lifestyle or a balance of the things you could do as an adult yourself to help yourself. So I think that's the resources hopefully will be very useful to people, and share them as broadly as you wish, basically.
It's so useful, and you're right, there's so many people, and working from home itself can be a stressor, especially if you have children or little puppies hanging off you. There's just another couple of comments there. Julie says she's going to share with her staff and she's booked in for Wednesday evening. Siobhan, you really enjoyed the session. Aideen, thanks so much. Seamus and Circa, really enjoyable experience. Thank you very much, Aideen. Bridie, this is brilliant. We'll share it with my networks for some inspiration for the day. Thank you very much, Bridie. Appreciate that. And everybody else, the same. Helen, thank you so much for today. I pressed the wrong button at one point, so hearing you both double pause time, self-awareness, annoyance. Helen, no problem. Thanks, Marianne. Thank you very much, Ray. Thank you, Emer. Circa, is this recorded? Yes, this is recorded, so you'll be able to use the link and replay it and share to anybody you think will benefit. We'll also post the replay links on LinkedIn and Facebook and the other networks. If anybody's interested in signing up to TrainedIn, it's trainedin.ie, and it's free sign up to TrainedIn, and it's 0 commission for the next couple of months, and anybody who signs up gets a chance to do their own presentation as well. So I think we've got through everybody.
And the final thing, Sorka, was just the video as well. If people want, and if they can get it on the slides, I'll pass them around if they want to contact me. But there's no problem. That's fine. But if people, this is a really nice video. I think if people want to use it as well after the call, I think they can go into Mental Health Ireland. It's a really, really nice, concise, less than 3-minute video of tips to help yourselves as well.
I can play the video there as we leave, and people can hang on.
Okay, perfect.
And watch it, or if not, it will be on the replay link as well.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks so much, Sorka.
Thank you very much, Seamus. Keep your chats going if you like.
Did you know there are things we can do every day to improve our mental health and well-being? Connect. Connecting is about building and strengthening relationships with the people around you. We can do this by spending meaningful time with people each day, arranging a day out with friends, having lunch with someone you work with, or joining a sports team in your local community. By giving time to these relationships, we feel happier and more secure, giving us a better sense of purpose. Be active. Look for ways to be active every day. Find something you enjoy. It doesn't have to be a marathon, but something that suits your fitness and mobility. Cycling, gardening, walking, and dancing are all ways that we can get more active. Being active every day causes changes in our brain, which can positively affect our mood. Take notice. To take notice is to be present in the here and now. Pay attention to the world around you, nature, people, your thoughts and feelings. Becoming more aware of the present moment can help us enjoy the world around us and understand ourselves better. Keep learning. Keep learning is about learning new skills and information about topics that interest us. We can keep learning by trying a new recipe, signing up for a nighttime course, fixing that broken bike, or taking on a new responsibility in work. Learning can boost our confidence and self-esteem, help build a sense of purpose, and help us connect with others. Give. Giving is about small acts of kindness for other people. You could make someone a cup of tea, sign up for volunteering, or offer to help someone you know with a project. You could just ask a friend or someone you work with how they are, and really listen to the answer. Giving back to others can create positive feelings and help us feel more satisfied with life. Each of the 5 ways have been shown to make a positive difference in how we feel and live our life. By including these simple actions every day, we can improve our mental health and well-being.
it really is a good video, Seamus, isn't it?
Yeah, I really love it. Yeah, it really summed it up. And I think it's actually, it feels the right time now at the end of our session today
Yeah,
to kind of play that. It kind of wraps it all up really, really well, I think.
It was a good way to finish off. I know some people jumped off there, and I heard there was feedback coming through, so hopefully that stopped. Michael had to run off and said thanks very much. But look, we're done. So Seamus Power from Powering Health, thank you very much for your time. And from me, Sorka Finucane from TrainedIn.ie. We'll see you soon, and thank you very much for your time. Bye.
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.